had posted about previous Venus bounds or Earth Venus Earth EVE some time back. Now we have news of another EVE, this time from the Dwingeloo telescope. First Venus bounds was from NASA at JPL way back in 1961. EVE by AMSAT-DL was in 2009 from the 20-meter radio telescope at the Bochum Observatory. Current EVE was on 22nd March 2025 when the Dwingeloo telescope was used successfully to bounce a radio signal off the surface of the Venus. It was the closest approach of Venus to Earth at about 42 million kilometers. Such a conjunction occurs when Venus is between the Sun and the Earth and happens approximately every 580 days. 278-second long tone was transmitted to Venus on 1299.5 MHz. Reflection was received at 280 seconds, the travel time to Venus and back. This cycle was repeated 4 times. The same reflection was also received at Stockard Radio Telescope at higher signal strength, as that telescope is a bit more sensitive. Next attempt is planned for the next Venus conjunction in October 2026. We look out for the results of that attempt. I've been reading about moon bounds ever since I was an SWL, but came across Venus bounds or EVE only a few days back. That was from a post by KL7AJ on QRZ. Being quite interested in astronomy from school days, I was quite intrigued about Venus bounds, not because I am likely to go for it, but because of the fact that I first read about amateur radio from astronomy books while at school. You may know that Venus is the hottest planet in the solar system with temperature of 867 degrees Fahrenheit or 464 degrees centigrade. Even Mercury, which is the nearest to Sun, has a lower temperature. Initial attempt at Venus bounds was from NASA at JPL way back in 1961 using 85-foot diameter dishes. It was necessary in those days to determine the exact position of Venus before they launched probes to it. They received strong radar returns 6.5 minutes after sending the signal. Several hundreds of observations followed in the next 2 months, and that was the first Venus bounds, though not exactly from radio amateurs. It is mentioned that if they had not found the exact position of Venus by this experiment, the Mariner 2 probe, which was Earth's first successful interplanetary mission way back in 1962, might have missed Venus by more than 100,000 miles. Yesterday, N4LMM posted another article on Venus bounds by radio amateurs. That was also long back, but relatively recent, I would say. That was on EVE by AMSAT-DL in 2009 using a 20-meter dish from Bochum on 2.4 GHz. They had used fast Fourier transform, popularly known in short as FFT, with an integration time of 5 minutes for receiving EVE signals. The reflected signals were clearly visible after an integration time of 2 minutes. A corresponding news item on ARRL website gives more details on the experiment. AMSAT-DL team had a transmitter generating about 6 kilowatts EW on 2.4 GHz. You may note that 2.4 GHz is the one currently used for uplink to Khataraska 100 geostationary amateur radio satellite. It is also the popular Wi-Fi band, which would be more familiar to all tech-minded persons. Venus-bound signals were sent from a ground control station at Sternward Observatory in Bochum. EVE signals had traveled about 100 million kilometers and had a round-trip delay of about 5 minutes. This was a landmark success for radio amateurs as it was over 100 times further than the moon bounds, which is now not that uncommon. We have a few who achieved moon bounds here in VU land as well. Though very high powers of the order of 1.5 kilowatt is needed for SSB contacts on moon bounds, digital weak signal contacts are possible with much lower powers and even a single Yagi antenna if you have a big gun on the other side with huge power and a large antenna array or dish antenna. AMSAT DL had repeated the EVE experiment later for several hours with good echoes from Venus using Morse code transmissions. Maybe because of the high power and the large dish needed, I have not come across a report of EVE contact between two radio amateurs yet, unlike in the case of EME, which is being reported fairly often. AMSAT DL was actually gearing up for their Mars probe named PA5, and their ground and command station was cleared for operational use by the success of EVE. Gunder's space page tells me that AMSAT P5A project has been put on hold after further funding was rejected in 2012.